A lot of people think boundaries are about control or keeping someone out or, being mean or I don't want to, say that to them and hurt their feelings or they're going to feel weird or I feel like a bad person for setting these boundaries, right? But the truth is, when you don't have boundaries, you actually wind up losing a lot of what you actually value that makes a loving relationship thrive, right? But not just inside of yourself, but it's also what you lose inside of the person you're actually trying to love. And by the time you realize it, most often the relationship is already starving at that point. So let's talk about the three biggest things you lose when you don't have boundaries. And the first one is you lose your partner's respect for themselves. You didn't think I was going that way, did you? Follow me here. When someone is allowed to consistently overstep boundaries without consequences, then they slowly start to lose their own sense of self-respect because as this happens over time, because it's not an intentional thing, right? They're just doing whatever is being allowed and sometimes not even thinking about it, just flowing with things. But when they do that for so long and things start to feel imbalanced, right? It doesn't feel right on some level. And they start to feel like they're a person that takes more than they give. Even though you're just, you're saying it's okay, or you're not saying anything at all, you're letting them cross these boundaries people organically kind of go as far as you let them go sometimes without consciously thinking about it. And if it's not seeming like it's a problem to you, they'll just keep on going. But somewhere inside of their spirit, they start to realize and resonate that something's not feeling right in the ratios going on here in the balance of things. And they start subconsciously losing a sense of self-respect for who they want to be. Because see, here's the thing. If you have a healthy partner, which I hope you do, right? Healthy people want to be protectors, not violators, right? So whenever your partner doesn't have boundaries to honor, and over time they slowly slip into realizing they're kind of taking more than they should or whatever, or at least they feel that way, they can easily start to view themselves as the problem or a problem in the relationship, even if they can't name it. They most likely won't be able to put their finger on it, but it's not going to feel right. And therefore, they won't feel right within themselves towards you if they actually love you and care about you, which I would like to think you're with someone that at the very least, that they do actually love you, even if they're not able to do it in the best ways or what have you. For example, let's think of the man who keeps getting away with inconsiderate behavior, right? And over time, he starts to subconsciously lose respect for you, the woman in his life, right? But here's the thing. He's also simultaneously losing respect for the version of himself that he's becoming by being with you, right? And what's being allowed of him, right? Now, I know some may say, well, why would he just stop doing that or whatever the case is? See, it's not a conscious thought. It's not an intentional thing oftentimes in this. Again, one of the biggest struggles people have is with discipline, right? You give someone an inch, they want to take a mile kind of a thing. And what's really happening in that is that man, or this person, doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman doing this too, is realizing in real time that maybe they're not built to be that person and that partner that they thought they were. Because maybe in the past, when they've been in relationships, someone has had boundaries to where it was easier for them to understand, oh, okay, that doesn't work for them. All right, oh, got it. I won't do that. So they can rest assured that they're not being a problem or doing something wrong to their partner, right? And maybe they've gotten in a relationship with you and they haven't experienced someone that doesn't hold their boundaries a certain way. So now they care for you, like you, and love you and all the things, but they're not used to having to be the one to impose, boundaries for you towards themselves, right? They're just used to going with the flow of whatever you're okay with, and they keep on going sometimes. And maybe they're learning, or I'll say this, the real lesson in this would be that they need to learn, okay, the awareness of, okay, even if my partner's not setting the boundary, I'm going to set it for the both of us, in their honor, right? But maybe they haven't learned that tool yet because they never had to cultivate it. But the internalized reflection they do is, uh-oh, I'm becoming a problem. Like, why am I, keep going further, even though they're not saying stop? Like, why am I not stopping it on my own, right? To where they're not realizing they haven't built that muscle of discipline, and they start to internalize it as they're not respecting who they're becoming in this process. And they start to kind of resent that person that they're becoming. And they, in some ways, start to resent you for allowing it. It's sometimes what happens whenever a woman's in a relationship with a man that doesn't seem like he has a backbone, or he's not standing up for himself, right? To where it's almost like you care about this man, but you almost start to resent him because he's not being the man you need him to be, right? And you get snappy with him. Maybe you poke and prod, or you wind up unintentionally or subconsciously creating arguments and so forth because you're frustrated that he's not being that masculine presence of a rock that you want him to be, and this is how it's coming out. The second thing you lose is your relationship's moral compass. See, boundaries are how a relationship defines what's right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, and what's not. And see, without boundaries, a relationship becomes directionless, but then so does the people inside of it. You stop growing, you stop evolving, and you start normalizing behavior that disconnects you further. Then what was once a small issue slowly becomes a baseline of dysfunction. And an example is, let's say when a woman, stops calling out dismissive comments, lets her voice be silenced and stops speaking up for herself, right? That over time becomes the new norm until both people forget what care and consideration even look like. And the third and probably biggest thing you lose is you lose the chance to experience real love. Because without boundaries, you're not showing people how to love you. You're teaching them how to neglect you. And without that structure, even a loving relationship that could have worked will eventually crumble under the weight of unspoken resentment and unmet needs. You have to understand that boundaries do not block love. They give it shape. And without them, you never get the chance to experience the highest version of your partner because you never called it forward, right? Someone that truly loves you will be honored to respect your boundaries, right? Because you're saying to them, hey, if you care enough about me, prove it by respecting these boundaries that I have that protects me, protects my physical, mental, and emotional well-being. If you care enough about me and you want to be in my life and you value me, you have to value these boundaries and respect them. And someone that loves you to pieces and looks for ways and opportunities to show you that they do would love to be able to respect your boundaries, because to them, it's a badge of honor to show that, hey, I love you enough to where this is an act of service. I'm showing you that you are valuable to me through my actions, not just my words. By the way, I honor what you say does not work for you, and me not crossing those lines. That's me saying I see you and I value you. But whenever you don't have boundaries, then you don't hold your partner to a higher standard they have to rise to. So therefore, you don't get to see that higher version of them. And here's the reality. If you're still saying to yourself, well, if they're going to be this higher version of themselves already, why not just be it? Why do I have to keep, standing on this boundary or making sure they respect the boundary? Well, here's the thing. A partner that you come across that is healthy enough to be that highest version of themselves, to where they wouldn't violate boundaries or whatever, or they would just have their own preset of things they won't do, to where you never have to speak about your boundaries at all. If you don't have those boundaries and they're that kind of person, they're going to recognize in you that you don't have boundaries, and they're not going to stay with you because you're not going to be aligned with them. Because I can guarantee you, if they are the higher version of themselves, they have boundaries because they value themselves enough to have them. They won't accept less. And so, like anything else, we attract what we're in harmony with. So if you find someone like that, you may attract them initially because you're awesome in a lot of ways. But if your circle is not complete with you loving yourself enough and valuing yourself enough to have boundaries that you can confidently and comfortably set and stand on, then they're going to walk away to find another partner, or a partner that fits them better. One that's more aligned on the same frequency and vibration, to where they can see themselves in their partner to some degree. Someone that values themselves enough to have boundaries the way they do, right? And see, without those boundaries, what winds up happening is a relationship that could have evolved into something beautiful and really powerful together as a power couple, right, doesn't happen because one of the people in that relationship, right, kept shrinking themselves to avoid conflict. And then what happens? Both people wind up in a relationship dynamic that winds up being more convenient than actually real, to where it's convenient to the person shrinking themselves because they don't have to face uncomfortable conversations and pushback, right? And it's convenient for the other person because they always get to be right and everything else. And it's never any, they don't have to deal with any challenge to the things they say to where they just keep getting to build their ego up, right? But it's not real because that person wants to get that pushback. And the fact that they're not getting it makes them feel like they're always right all the time. But then they're, running around with false perspectives and things. Or they feel like they don't have a peer that actually they can have back and forth dialogue about things because you're always going to bend to what they say. And then the person shrinking themselves is slowly deteriorating and dying inside because you're not being who you are. Everybody loses when you don't have boundaries. See, you think setting boundaries will push them away. But truth is, the real risk is what you'll never get to experience if you don't set them. Your partner's best does not come out when you let things slide. It comes out when you stand on business of who you are and what you deserve, and you make them rise to it and value it the same way. If you need help building the skills, the tools, and the muscles to set boundaries for yourself effectively that will serve you and your partner and your relationship as a whole, then email or DM me the word coaching and we will get to work, only if you're truly ready to put that work in. If you're not ready for one-on-one coaching, on the time, space, maybe even the resources, then at least email or DM me the word transformation, and I'll send a link to one of my transformation courses that'll help you learn the same things I teach my clients one-on-one at your own pace on your own time. Either way, do something to get in the race. Let's get it.